got into it with Halloween, the Scream Factory. One Halloween night, with only a rubber mask and a butcher knife, Michael Myers carved his name into the memory of a whole town. But that's ancient history. A new generation of teens have taken to the streets of Haddonfield, Illinois. And nothing makes Michael Myers happier than seeing some new blood. Halloween, the Scream Factory, an all-new series of novels for teen readers based on the terrifying films. This can't be happening. The moon was the only light Matt had to get him through the thick woods of Haddonfield. His heart pounded as he moved as quickly as possible through the dense trees. The pain in his ankle was excruciating now as he stumbled along. He tried, without much luck, to erase the horrifying image of Michael Myers from his mind as he ventured farther into the blackness of the forest. The dead eyes behind the mask seemed to be watching, following. Keep going. Keep running. No longer able to see the moon through the trees, Matt stopped. He tried to get back his sense of direction. Where am I? Nothing made any sense right now. That's when he heard the noise behind him. The bone-crunching sound of footsteps. Terror pulsated through his weakened body. Oh, God, no! Come on, Matt. Keep going, he coaxed himself. He began running blindly. His legs became numb as he picked up speed. The footsteps followed him, getting closer and closer as his follower gained on him. Matt heard that same unearthly growling just feet behind him. He didn't dare turn around. He couldn't do anything but run. Without warning, Matt felt himself falling deep into the cold, wet earth. He landed with a painful thud on what felt like jagged rocks. Freezing water soaked through his ripped clothing, further numbing his pain-stricken, exhausted body. Matt screamed as he tried to claw his way out, still unable to figure out where he was. It was so dark and black. He heard a noise from above. He looked up and screamed again out in horror. His body hurt too much to move. The footsteps crunched above him, circling him. The white face peered down into the ditch. Something shiny gleamed in the hand of Michael Myers as it caught the moonlight. This can't be happening. Chapter 1. Haddonfield High. Laurie Parker glanced up at the wall clock, watching the seconds slowly ticking by as the voice of her history teacher, Mrs. Grubbs, droned on about the first American settlers. Laurie swept her long blonde hair over the back of her pale pink sweater. Sally Wilson passed a note to Laurie, who sat at the desk directly behind her. Carefully, Laurie opened the folded piece of paper in her lap and noticed that the note was a bit damp. She let out a little giggle as she read. I'm so bored. I just noticed that I was drooling on this very piece of paper. Laurie turned around and whispered, You are so gross. Mrs. Grubbs gave the girls both a warning, then turned her attention to the whole class. Okay, seniors, she said. As I told you before, this class is a tough course in American history. I want to make sure that you're prepared for the real world next year. Get out your notebooks and write down the following practical assignment. The whole class groaned in unison. Waving her arms to quiet the class, Mrs. Grubbs continued. This assignment, I'm hoping, will be fun. You're going to pair up in teams and research a historical event. The subject is your choice. Your reports will be due this Friday and must be at least 5 pages long, so be creative and have fun. More groans and sighs came from the class as Mrs. Grubbs answered scattered questions about the assignment. Laurie turned around to face Sally. Want to be a team with me? Sally smirked. Of course, dummy. We've only been best Jeep friends for 5 years, and this happens to be our only class together this semester. She tore a sheet of paper from her notebook and pushed it to Laurie. She joked, but you'll need to sign here and here and here to make this partnership official. Laurie felt a slight blush spread across her freckled cheeks. True, Sally was her best friend, but sometimes her sarcasm was a little annoying. The two friends were a contrast. Laurie with her girl-next-door looks and almost shy personality, and Sally, the dark-haired tigress with flawless skin and a more than occasional flash of mischief in her bright green eyes. A loud sigh filled the classroom. The girls whirled around to see Marcia Miller, the snobby and rich heir to Haddonfield's biggest company, Miller Realty. Marcia stood up at her desk as she smoothed her designer dress, which she wore with her poutiest expression. She ran her fingers through her sleekly styled hair, whining. But Mrs. Grubbs, certainly you must know about my big Halloween party this weekend. How can I possibly be expected to complete this history assignment while planning the biggest social event in town?" The girls giggled as Mrs. Grubbs rolled her eyes. "I'm sure you'll find a way, Marcia," she said. Marcia stamped her foot as she slumped into her seat. She shot her meanest look at Sally, who was smirking at her little temper tantrum. Marcia particularly disliked the fiery beauty ever since she'd started dating Matt Hudson, the biggest hunk at Haddonfield High. Everyone knew that Marcia and Matt had been an item last summer before their bitter breakup. Even Sally had to admit that Marcia was quite attractive. In fact, all the guys drooled over her. After the 2 years of working out with her personal trainer and the nose job paid for with Daddy's money. But she had a mean streak that had made Matt call it quits before school had started. It was common knowledge that Marcia was insanely jealous of Sally and would stop at nothing to get Matt back. Lori whispered, "If looks could kill." Sally shrugged her shoulders, turning away from her seething rival. She turned up the volume of her voice so that Marcia and everyone else in the room could hear. "Well, money can only buy so much in this world, like nose jobs, liposuction, and shallow friends." The comment hit Marcia like a slap in the face. She slammed her books on her desk furiously. Lori stared wide-eyed at Sally for a moment before bursting into a fit of laughter. "Did you see the look on her face?" she whispered. "That serves her right. She's been nothing but mean since you and Matt started dating." Sally snuggled into the varsity letter jacket that Matt had given her last month. "Well, can you blame her? After all, I do have exclusive rights to the hottest piece of property in Haddonfield." Lori smiled and began scribbling in her notebook. "What are you doing now?" Sally asked, watching her friend. "Writing the great American novel?" "Hang on," Lori told her, trying to concentrate on her train of thought. "I'm just writing down some ideas. Mrs. Grubb said that the subject of the assignment is our choice, right?" Sally looked dumbfoundedly at her A-student friend. "Yeah, so?" "So, I've got a great idea that will land us both 2 A+. Lori lowered her voice to a whisper so her classmates wouldn't overhear her great plan. "We'll write about the first settlers right here in Haddonfield, back in the 1800s. Sally's glossy pink mouth fell open. "What? And just how exactly are we supposed to find out about them? Dig up a few graves? Listen, let's do something easy like the Civil War or George Washington chopping down the lemon tree. We've only got until Friday." Lori laughed. "It was a cherry tree, Sally," she winked. "Trust me, girlfriend, it'll be a piece of cake. We will have to do a little digging, but it won't be at the graveyard." Sally gave her a confused look. "What are you talking about?" Lori smiled. "We'll dig through the old files at City Hall. They have tons of fascinating old newspaper clippings and property records." Sally protested. "City Hall? That sounds so boring and dusty and lame." She gave her shoulder-length hair a little toss. "But you're the genius when it comes to school, and I'm the genius when it comes to cool." Lori looked down at her brown loafers, feeling a little awkward. She was one of the smartest students at Haddonfield High, but certainly not one of the most knowledgeable about guys or clothes. Sometimes she felt like a third wheel around Sally and Matt. Sally touched her arm. "Hey, Lore, I didn't mean anything by that. Are we still best buddies?" she asked softly. Lori smiled as she always did when Sally called her Lore. "Yeah, Sal, everything's cool." The class bell rang and everyone scrambled, gathering their books and backpacks as they made a mad dash for the door. 6th period was over and school was officially out on this blustery October Monday. Students poured out of the front doors of Haddonfield High and sounds of excited chatter filled into the air. Halloween was just around the corner and everyone was caught up in the spirit. Lori waited patiently as Sally struggled to remember her locker combination again. Lori was sure that Sally would lose her head if it wasn't attached. Her best friend was the most scattered, unorganized person she knew. The halls were almost deserted by the time she opened the metal compartment, which was crammed full of books and papers. Matt's photo was scotch-taped to the inside of the door. Sally gave the picture a little kiss and cooed, "Hi, cutie pie." Lori picked up her heavy backpack. Are you kicking it with Matt after school? When Sally was done, they walked down the corridor toward the main exit. Sally winked. Matt's got a football practice until 5, so we'll probably hook up after. A grin spread across her face. Why? What are you doing? I don't know. You want to go to City Hall and get started on the assignment? Lori asked. Sally hesitated for a moment. The last thing on her mind was the history assignment. Lori waved her hand before her dreamy-eyed friend. Earth to Sally, hello. Do you want to go or what? Sally flashed Lori her best friend's smile, feeling that she owed it to her buddy, whom she'd been neglecting a little lately. Sure, why not? I'll call Matt and have him pick us up later, she said. The two girls walked down the main hall and through the massive glass doors that overlooked the nearly manicured courtyard of Haddonfield High. A few students strayed across the lawn as the chilly wind blew orange and yellow leaves from the towering oak trees through the air. Lori, lost in her thoughts, walked a few steps behind Sally as they crossed through the student parking lot toward Main Street. Something was different, she thought. Was it the distance growing between them since Matt came along? Or was it the strange, spooky feeling that the dark, cloudy sky invited? She wondered. The shops on Main Street were all decorated for the Halloween season. Jack-o'-lanterns set on almost every windowsill. Other shops had cardboard cutouts of ghosts, black cats, and witches hanging in the windows. Sally stopped to gaze at the display in the flower shop, ogling the bouquets of red roses. Aren't they beautiful? Matt gave me a red rose last weekend. Lori forced herself to smile when she really felt like screaming. On one hand, she was glad that Sally was so happy and had a great guy like Matt, but still she wanted someone of her own. Lori had been feeling a little jealous of their romance lately. If she heard one more juicy, detailed story about Sally's love life, she was going to explode. The deafening roar of a car engine revving took the girls by surprise. They turned to face the street, where they saw none other than Marcia Miller in her new black convertible, with 3 of her friends. Marcia's friends laughed sadistically at the scare they'd given the girls. Lori pointed. Uh-oh, it's Marcia and the Snob Squad. Just then, a tiny water droplet hit Lori on the nose. Marcia, nestled in her leather bucket seat, looked up into the cloud-covered sky. She smiled wickedly as though she planned the rainfall. A deafening clap of thunder bellowed across the sky, and more drops began to fall. In a display of arrogance, Marcia pushed a button that caused her convertible top to come up, shielding her from the rain. She opened her automatic window just enough to comment sarcastically. I just love the rainy days, don't you, Sally? Her sarcasm turned to hatred. And don't think you're going to get away with that little stunt you pulled in history class today. I'll get my revenge, bitch. Mark my words. To protect herself from the downpour, Sally pulled Matt's jacket over her head, locked in a staring contest with Marcia. Sally spat out. Get a life. Better yet, go buy a life. Everyone knows that Matt dumped you, and you're just jealous of me. Stop making a fool out of yourself, seriously. Marcia's face turned crimson red. Oh, is that what he told you? That he dumped me? Reality check. Hello, I don't think so. Sally took a step toward the fiercely idling sports car. Look, Marcia, I don't want to be your enemy. I think we've both had enough of each other, and I'm willing to call a truce. Marcia laughed. A truce? Me? Call a truce? With someone who's wearing last season's clothes? Get real. I hate you, Sally. In fact, I'm going to dedicate the rest of the semester to making your life a living hell. Sally laughed sarcastically. No thanks, Marcia. You're really not my type. Marcia's engine revved with fury. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Her black car tore off down Main Street. Chapter 2. The girls jogged down Main Street toward City Hall. Lori commented nervously. What a psycho. She's almost scary. You'd better watch out for her, Sally. Sally puffed. I'm not worried. She's all bark and no bite. You know, like bow wow wow. Lori smiled, hiding the looming danger she sensed. Yeah, I guess you're right. Do you think this means that Marcia will be excluding us from the guest list for her big Halloween party? Sally rolled her eyes. Are you serious? The girls stopped before City Hall, the oldest building in Haddonfield, taking a few deep breaths before climbing up the massive staircase to the entrance. An old woman sat behind the oak desk in the spacious lobby. She smoothed her neatly braided white hair and gave the girls a bright smile. "Welcome to Haddonfield City Hall. What brings you two lovely girls here on this dreary afternoon?" Lori wiped a bit of dust from the desk. "We came here to do some research for a history assignment on the first settlers of Haddonfield. Can we take a look at the old newspaper archives?" she asked. The old woman's smile faded as she eyed the girls suspiciously for a moment. "Well, I suppose so. I guess you're too young to be tabloid reporters. You know, we get a lot of news reporters snooping around here this time of year, wanting to know about the Haddonfield murders. I wish people would just forget about this town and leave us alone. You know, just last week a reporter from the National Inquisitor was here, and she—" Sally glanced at her watch and butted in as politely as possible. "Ma'am, if you could just show us where the archives are." The old woman straightened her gray wool blazer and pulled out a large ring of keys. "Follow me, girls." The girls shivered as they entered the dimly lit basement. Hundreds of steel file cabinets stretched from one end of the room to the other, casting eerie shapes along the brick walls. The old woman smiled proudly. "This is it. I call it the labyrinth. I've been keeping these files for 35 years. The newspapers are filed by date in those cabinets to the right. I hope you girls have thick blood. It's colder than a morgue down here since the heater broke. We just haven't had the funding to get it repaired. But Mayor Jameson promised he'd get it taken care of soon." Before Lori could ask the woman which row of filing cabinets to start with, she had disappeared up the stairs, still talking. Lori shrugged and looked at Sally. "I guess we're on our own. Come on, buddy." The girls walked through the maze of filing cabinets, working their way toward the right-hand wall. Sally sneezed. "It's so dusty and cold down here, Lore. I wish I was with Matt right now, drinking a cup of hot chocolate." Lori stopped and looked at her friend, feeling very annoyed. "Can you stop thinking about Matt for 5 minutes? We have work to do." Sally dully answered. "Okay, so where do we start?" Something caught her eye. "Hey, look at this!" Sally exclaimed. She bent down and picked up a heavy padlock from the floor next to a drawer that had been left slightly open. "I wonder what's in here." Lori nervously glanced around the eerie, spacious room and whispered, "Sally, put that back where you found it before someone sees you." Mischief flashed in Sally's eyes as she reached for the first file in the open drawer. She rifled through its crumbling contents. Lori hissed, "Sally, I'm warning you." Sally's mouth fell open. "Oh my God! You're not going to believe what's in here. Talk about Haddonfield history." Lori stepped closer, her curiosity aroused. "What? Will you hurry up and tell me what's so interesting before the clerk throws us out of here?" Sally gasped. "Look at this. It's full of newspaper clippings and police reports from the 70s about the Haddonfield Halloween murders. November 1st, 1978. Halloween massacre in Haddonfield. Residents of Haddonfield are mourning the loss of 4 local teenagers who were brutally murdered last night by convicted killer Michael Myers. Police report that Myers escaped from the Smith Grove Mental Hospital, where he had been undergoing psychiatric treatment after murdering his sister, Judith Myers, 15 years ago on Halloween night. The murder weapon, a large kitchen butcher knife, was found at the scene of the crime on Oak Street. Myers was last seen wearing a rubber Halloween mask and black jumpsuit. He escaped capture and is still at large. Police are asking for any information regarding the whereabouts of Myers, and are considering him armed and very dangerous. Sally's eyes were glued to the pages before her. She swallowed, hardly believing the words that came from her mouth. "Listen to this one. The police report says that he was shot by the police 6 times and thrown out of a window before he escaped." Lori sighed. "Well, he couldn't have survived something like that. I'm sure he died, and they just never found the body." Sally picked out another news clipping. "Here's one from just 10 years ago." She held out the police sketch of Michael Myers, his face covered by a hideous white mask. 12 massacred in Haddonfield. Last night, 12 area teenagers were brutally massacred in Haddonfield by convicted killer Michael Myers. Myers was The lights in the basement flickered off, then on. Lori sucked in her breath. Sally, what was that? Michael Myers. Lori flinched as the name flashed through her mind. She stared at the overhead lights as a sinking feeling swept over her. Is this stuff true? I mean, how could something like this have happened? Here, in Haddonfield. Sally shrugged. I don't know if it's all true, but people say so. It all happened a long time ago. She shivered. They say he comes back on Halloween to get revenge. A shadowy figure watched the girls from the top of the stairs and silently moved closer to them. Lori chewed on her thumbnail and whispered, Sally, stop reading this stuff. It's freaking me out. What if it did happen and... A large hand fell down upon Sally's shoulder. Ah! She screamed and Lori jumped back, her heart pounding with terror. The girls spun around to find Mayor Jameson towering above them, a deep scowl upon his face. Sally dropped the file, scattering papers all over the floor. Mayor Jameson, you scared us to death, she said. She bent over and began picking up the mess. Lori felt the blood rush to her face. We're so sorry. We were just here to research a project for school. For school. And I'm Lori Parker, and this is Sally Wilson, she stammered. Mayor Jameson picked up the padlock from the floor. Do you girls, Lori and Sally, always pick locks? Sally handed him the disheveled file with shaking hands. We're really sorry. We just found it open like this, and, well, we started reading. We won't tell anyone about this, we promise, and we'll never bother you again. She grabbed Lori's arm. Come on, Lori, let's go. The mayor took a step forward, his huge body blocking their way. Not so fast. You girls have trespassed and read confidential city files. This is pretty serious, he informed them. Lori protested, hoping her voice didn't sound too shaky. We didn't exactly trespass, sir. The clerk upstairs let us down here, and we found it open like Sally told you. We shouldn't have read the files, you're right. We really didn't mean any harm, she explained. The mayor suddenly seemed to think of something, and his expression softened a little. He pointed a finger at Lori. You're not John Parker's daughter, are you? Lori swallowed hard. Yes, I am. My father was a volunteer on your last campaign. John Parker, a fine man, the mayor stated. He looked at the trembling teens and seemed to decide no real harm had been done here. Okay, calm down, calm down. I'm going to let this incident slide. But you must promise not to discuss what you've read with anyone. Do you understand me? Sally laughed nervously. Thanks, Mayor. I guess we'll be going then. Oh, yeah, and when I'm old enough to vote, I'll remember this. Mayor Jameson laughed. Well, that's one way to win an election. He glanced at the file in his hand and his smile faded. Say, what are you girls doing for Halloween? Lori gave him a puzzled look, wondering why on earth he would be asking them such a question. Us? Well, we're not sure yet. Why? She asked. Sally envisioned herself dressed in a sequined black gown and Matt in a tuxedo, eating little crab cakes from a silver platter at a fancy city Halloween party. She beamed. We're not doing anything special. Mayor Jameson glanced around the giant basement. How would you girls like to be in charge of a very special city project? Sally cocked her head. City project? What do you mean? Lori pictured the two of them wearing orange city uniforms picking up trash on Halloween night as punishment for what they'd done. She guessed they deserved it. She asked, Do you mean like making up the damage for what we've done? The mayor laughed. Well, not exactly. I was thinking about having Haddonfield's largest Halloween party, right here at City Hall. I need a couple of bright, energetic individuals to be in charge of it. We'll transform this basement into a giant haunted house, to keep the local teenagers safe and off the streets on Halloween. Sally watched the mayor rubbing the old file nervously in his hand. Safe from what? She asked. The mayor cleared his throat. He explained. All the malls have trick-or-treating at the stores these days because there are sick people out there who put razor blades in apples and poison candy. Since we don't have major malls out here. I thought that City Hall would be the perfect place. So, are you girls in? Sally thought about it for a moment. I don't know, she said reluctantly. It sounds like a lot of work to put it together on really a short notice. How come you're planning it so late? The mayor's expression became serious. I just came up with the idea this morning. Something came up, he said, his thoughts wandering. He tapped the filing cabinet. Besides, you girls do owe me a favor. I'll even set aside a special fund for decorations and refreshments. Lori's eyes flashed as she looked at Sally. She coaxed. Come on, it sounds like fun. Besides, we don't have anything else to do. It's not like we're going to Marcia's party. The words struck a nerve in Sally. She half smiled. Okay, yeah, we'll do it. The mayor heartily shook their hands. Great. I'm so happy to have you two helping out. This really means a lot to me. I've got to go now. Please stop by my office tomorrow and we'll discuss the plans. Chapter 3. Lori leaned against the stone wall in front of City Hall in the windy, cold weather. The rain poured down in sheets on the street below. She could see Sally inside the lobby on the payphone with Matt. The old woman waited patiently for her to end the phone call and then escorted her out. She locked the towering glass doors behind them. Sally snuggled into her jacket as the icy wind blew through her dark hair. Matt said he'll be here to pick us up in 10 minutes, she said. Lori shivered. The Scream Factory. What are you talking about? Sally asked. Lori smiled, explaining. The haunted house. Let's call it the Scream Factory. We can throw sheets over all the file cabinets and turn it into a maze of terror. Then we'll make up flyers and pass them out at school. Oh, this is going to be a blast. Sally shrugged. I don't know. I'm having second thoughts, she explained. Something is wrong. Did you see the way the mayor kept looking at that file? I just have a bad vibe about all this. He's not telling us something. Lori brushed a lock of wind-tangled hair from her face. He's a politician. I'm sure there's a lot of things he isn't telling us. Besides, we agreed to do this, and he's counting on us. So let's make the best of it. It might even be fun. Sally couldn't stop thinking of the horrible stories she'd read about Michael Myers. Why hadn't they found his body? What if it was all true? What if? Sally knew it was true, but she didn't want to believe it. Sally looked seriously at Lori, trying to talk her out of it. I don't understand why he'd suddenly decide to plan such a huge party just a few days before Halloween. And the other weird thing about it is that the city doesn't even have the funding to get the heating repaired. But the mayor is willing to shell out the money for a party? I just don't get it. Lori put her arm around Sally. Hey, we'll have so many lit-up jack-o'-lanterns in that building we won't need any heating. Besides, this is the perfect way to get back at Marcia Miller. The whole school will come to our party instead of hers. We'll invite everybody. Sally crinkled her nose. Ooh, I like the sound of that. I can just see her now, pouting all by herself at her little party. Okay, you've talked me into it. Matt Hudson pulled up in front of City Hall in his red Jeep, loud rock music blaring through the canvas top. He hopped out and bounded up the stairs with ease to where the girls were talking. He held out his muscular arms to Sally. Hey, sweetie, I'm here. Don't I get a kiss? Lori watched as Sally brushed his deep brown hair off his perfectly chiseled face. Sally was really lucky, she thought. She could understand why Marcia was so obsessed with Matt. When he smiled at Sally, showing those perfect white teeth, it was as if she were the only girl on the planet. Sally pouted. What took you so long, Matt? Your little snuggle bunny was freezing out here. Matt growled. Oh, I love it when you talk bunnies to me. Matt looked at Lori as if he hadn't seen her there before. Oh, hey, Lori. Lori smiled politely. Hi, Matt. Are you guys ready to go? Matt tickled Sally, who was giggling hysterically as they piled into the Jeep. Matt turned down the volume of his radio and asked, So, what were the two hottest babes in Haddonfield doing at City Hall anyway? Sally smiled. You are looking at the hostess of Haddonfield's wildest Halloween party ever. Matt reached beneath his seat and pulled out a small black envelope. Marcia's party? Here's my invitation. Well, I'm glad you two finally made peace. So what are you going to be doing for her? Doing for her? Sally repeated. She grabbed the invitation. Give me that, Matt. How could you even consider going to that bitch's party? Sally tore open the envelope and read aloud in a snickering, sweet voice. Matt, hope you can make it to my party for the time of your life. Matt stared dumbly at Sally. She just gave it to me after football practice today. I thought you just said that you guys made up. What's the deal? Sally threw down the invitation. No, as a matter of fact, we didn't make up. I can't believe her. She almost ran us over with her car after school, and then she follows you to football practice to deliver this disgusting little invitation. Will she stop at nothing? Matt smirked and put his hand on Sally's knee. You're kind of cute when you're jealous, he teased. Sally sighed, feeling foolish for getting so upset. I'm not jealous, and I'm not going to Marcia's party. Whew. She took a breath. Lori and I are having our own Halloween bash, and you are coming with me. Lori spoke up, trying to ease the tension. Mayor Jameson asked us to throw a giant party at City Hall. We're going to transform the basement into a haunted house, and we're inviting the whole school and everyone else in Haddonfield. We're calling it the Scream Factory. Matt laughed. A party with the mayor? Are you serious? This place will be crawling with little kids and old fogies that reek of mothballs. How are we supposed to have any fun in a place like that? Come on, Sally. Sally twisted Matt's class ring, which she wore on her thumb. Her feelings were obviously hurt. It's not going to be like that. We're going to make it the coolest party this town has ever seen. So unless you have other plans, I need your help with this, she said. Matt looked at his beautiful girlfriend. On one hand, he was feeling guilty for flaunting his invitation in front of her. But on the other hand, he hated the thought of missing one of Marcia's wild parties, with catered food and plenty of spiked fruit punch. He gave her leg a little squeeze. Of course I'll help you, Sally. I was just joking about the old fogies and stuff. Lori peered out of her window at the wet street. She strained to make out a dark figure pushing a motorcycle on the other side of the road. Hey, Matt, stop. That was Jake Kovac back there pushing his bike. Let's go see if he needs any help. Matt snorted. Huh, help? Of course he needs help. Matt pointed. Look at that guy in his faded black denim jeans and leather jacket. The rebel without a clue. The lone stranger. Sally looked back at Jake, pushing his old motorcycle in the rain. Matt, just because someone isn't a jock doesn't mean that they're weird, she said defensively. Let's go help him. Matt saw Lori's hopeful expression in his rearview mirror and realized how silly and immature he was acting. He groaned as he made a U-turn. Lori ignored Matt's stupid jokes. Sometimes he was so insensitive, such a jock. He's an artist, and a good one, she said in Jake's defense. Sally turned around to look at Lori. Oh, yeah? Since when do you know so much about Jake Kovac? Lori anxiously waited as Matt turned the Jeep around. Jake always sat in front of Lori in her physical science class. He never said much. A few times she'd seen him watching her, but he'd always turned around before she could give him a smile. She often stared at his honey blonde hair and had always thought he was very attractive and a little dangerous. Lori answered. I've seen him drawing in science class in his notebook. Matt pulled over in the gravel a few feet away from Jake. Okay, Lori, go ask Mr. James Dean if he needs a ride, he said. A flush spread across Lori's cheeks as she got out of the Jeep. She yelled, Hey, Jake, do you need some help? Jake stopped pushing the bike and looked up to see Lori Parker. She stood there under the dark sky like some kind of angel, with that pink Angora sweater stretching across her chest. He cleared his throat, shocked to see her. Yeah, I could use a ride. Lori smiled brightly. Great, come on. Jake was a little embarrassed about the broken bike as he pushed the kickstand into the gravel. I'll come back and pick up my bike tomorrow when the rain lets up. Lori stepped closer, really noticing his mysterious eyes for the first time. You've got a little smudge on your cheek. She gingerly wiped his face with her fingertip. Jake stared at her, mesmerized by her touch. Thanks. Must be oil from the bike. He gave her a shy smile and followed her to the Jeep. Why are they helping me? He thought. Electrical impulses rushed through his entire body as he watched her walk. Some days it almost drove him mad knowing that this gorgeous creature was sitting not more than 2 feet behind him, and he couldn't even bring himself to speak or look at her. Here she was in the flesh offering him a ride, touching his face, staring at him with those blue eyes. Don't blow it, Jake, he told himself. Matt started the engine as Jake and Lori piled in. Hey man, having a bad day? Jake awkwardly scrunched into the back seat with his long legs nearly touching his chin. No, well, yeah. Hey, thanks for the ride. I live on Ripley Road, about a mile up from the old Myers place. The Myers place? The horrible newspaper articles flashed through Sally's mind. She turned to Jake. Really? You actually live up there? Is all that stuff true about Michael Myers? Lori listened intently as Jake spoke in his soft voice. Yeah, he said. They say it's all true. But things have been quiet around here for years. They say the Myers house is haunted, but I don't buy it. I pass it every day and never see any action over there, except for the weeds growing. The place has been deserted for over 30 years, since he killed his sister on Halloween night. Matt laughed. Yeah, right. I can't believe you guys. I don't even think that Michael Myers existed. It's all just a bunch of stupid rumors, urban legends. Lori noticed that Jake's long legs was touching hers. Matt, you're such an ignoramus. We just read all the old newspaper articles today at City Hall. I seriously doubt that all those stories were just made up. I agree with Jake. Jake winked at Lori. He tapped Matt on the shoulder and challenged. Why don't we stop by the old Myers place on the way to my house? I'll show you the bloodstains on the wall. Sally squealed. No way! That is too creepy. Besides, it's getting way too dark for that. Matt downshifted as they turned the corner onto Ripley Road. You're on, Jake. I'm not scared of that old dump. Okay, this has been the first 3 chapters of Halloween, The Scream Factory. I know this is obviously a teen novel, but I'm actually enjoying it. I think it's got promise. I'm looking forward to what happens. That prologue with Michael Myers doing his first kill, kind of, was pretty neat. Let me know what you guys think. I know this is kind of different than the books we've been doing, but I'd love to get some feedback from you guys in the comment section or on the Facebook group page, and let me know what you think about it. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow with some more of The Scream Factory. Till then, thanks for listening and have a great night, everybody.